Whoever can identify which animal this hide belongs to, the king will give him his daughter's hand in marriage. After studying it carefully for a moment, the man even plucked a hair from it, then said with great confidence, "This is rat skin." But the king said he was wrong. The princess immediately felt relieved. She was a noble princess after all. How could she marry such a common man? The second man looked like a scholar. He didn't rush to answer. Instead, he examined it carefully with a magnifying glass, then said somewhat hesitantly, "This is cowhide." As soon as he finished speaking, the princess immediately looked nervously at her father. Fortunately, the answer was still wrong. The third to come was a prince from a neighboring kingdom. He was very handsome. Every move showed great refinement. This man was exactly the ideal husband in the princess's mind. So to help him win, the princess wanted to get the real answer from her father, then secretly tell the prince. But as king, her father valued fairness above all else in his life, so he would never help anyone cheat. The contest continued. The prince thought for a moment and gave his answer to giant walrus. The princess immediately looked hopefully at her father, but the result was still wrong.
No.
The princess was disappointed to lose such a good man like this, but worse was yet to come. Just then, a very ugly wild man suddenly burst in. The soldiers immediately tried to stop him, planning to drive him away, but the king waved his hand, saying he had already announced to the nation that anyone could participate in this contest, so he let him in. Who knew this wild man raised in the mountains had a sense of smell better than a dog's? No matter what animal, he could identify it with just one sniff. Flea. The king's smile suddenly disappeared. Clearly the wild man was right. But how did such a large flea come to be? The story goes back 6 months. When the princess was playing music at a court ball, a flea suddenly jumped out of the king's sleeve. Watching it hop around in his palm, the king found it particularly amusing. He even stopped watching his daughter's performance, immediately left everyone and rushed back to study this flea. In the days that followed, the king would prick his finger every day to feed the flea with blood. After it was full, he would carefully put it back in a box. But unexpectedly, the flea grew incredibly fast. In just days it was as big as a soybean and strong enough to pull a small cart. The king was overjoyed, thinking when it grew bigger, he could travel in a carriage pulled by the flea. To achieve this dream, the king began feeding the flea the finest steaks daily. In just 1 month, the flea grew as big as a small dog. The king was particularly pleased, but the good times didn't last. The flea ate too much, plus it never exercised. Soon it developed health problems. The king immediately grew anxious, quickly called the royal physician, but when the physician entered, he was so shocked by what he saw he couldn't speak. What on earth was this thing? But urged by the king, the physician had no time to think. He picked up his stethoscope and began examining the flea, but before treatment could begin, the flea suddenly stretched its legs and died. Seeing the pet he'd raised himself die like this, the king was particularly sad, but he quickly thought of a plan. He made the physician swear to secrecy, then found the princess, saying he'd figured out how to choose a husband for her. He had the flea's skin removed and told everyone whoever could identify which animal's skin this was, he would give them his daughter in marriage. After the news spread, all the single men in the kingdom were excited, but everyone racked their brains and not one person got the answer right. Just then, a foul-smelling wild man suddenly burst in. He just leaned in for a sniff and immediately said it was flea skin. The princess panicked on the spot because she wanted to marry a handsome prince, not this ugly wild man before her. Unable to accept this, she could only run crying from the hall, then ran all the way to the roof wanting to jump. The king who chased after urged her to think of the greater good, saying as king, he must keep his word, and as princess she must set an example. With no choice, the princess could only reluctantly follow the wild man. They passed through dense forests, climbed steep cliffs, after traveling far, finally reached the wild man's dwelling. But looking inside, the floor was covered with bloody animal bones. The princess's heart sank. Even worse, the wild man knew no gentleness. Every night he would force himself on the princess.